Imagine arriving at a Seventh-day Adventist camp meeting expecting traditional worship, only to be shocked by gospel legends like Karen Clark Sheard and Ricky Dillard. With claims of rule violations, spiritual tension, and a move that split the crowd, witnesses are describing it as the most startling event in the history of camp meetings. Behind those hallowed tents, what actually transpired? For this one, you're not prepared. Tradition, reverence, and a deeply ingrained worship structure are hallmarks of Seventh-day Adventist camp gatherings. However, something occurred this year that has churchgoers discussing in whispers and some publicly criticizing what transpired. Gospel heavyweights Karen Clark Sheard and Ricky Dillard were asked to lead a special song section. Let's also state that the church bulletin did not contain the events that transpired on that stage. From leaders appearing surprised by soul-shaking high notes and praising breaks to allegations of inappropriate musical selections, backstage disputes, and tearful testimonials that deviated from the script. This year's camp meeting had an electrifying, tumultuous, and, for some, spiritually awakening atmosphere. We'll go into exactly what transpired at the camp meeting, the response from SDA leadership, and the reasons this contentious event has caused division in the gospel community in this video. Was it a flagrant violation for Seventh-day Adventist worship procedure? A much-needed drive toward unity and spirit-led worship? Or a divine disruption? You won't believe who screamed off stage, who was silenced in the middle of a song, and what elders and organizers are currently saying behind closed doors. Hold on tight, because this tale has protest, praise, and a performance that might have permanently altered the course of gospel history. There were rumors of conflict before the camp meeting even started. The Seventh-day Adventist camp meetings are an annual occasion for spiritual refreshment, education, and rejuvenation. These gatherings, which prioritize modesty, reverence, and a worship style that represents the church's essential beliefs, which usually do not contain full-blown gospel theatrics, have a conservative framework. Thus, when the committee for the camp meeting declared that the main musical acts would be Karen Clark Sheard, a gospel star with strong Pentecostal origins, and Ricky Dillard, the vivacious choir director renowned for his theatrical stage presence, both excitement and grave concern were expressed in response to it. A few of the younger Adventists were ecstatic. They believed the denomination ought to embrace more expressive worship methods and open up. However, not everyone agreed. Indeed, inviting such mainstream gospel leaders could jeopardize the doctrinal order of our worship and lead to needless discord within the body, according to a leaked email purportedly authored by a district SDA elder. The most contentious discussions occurred during Zoom calls for private planning. Two committee members threatened to quit over the choice to invite Dillard and Sheard, according to an insider who spoke on condition of anonymity to a tiny gospel podcast. They don't represent our style, our theology, or our Sabbath values, one person allegedly said. The event proceeded in spite of the criticism, with Ricky and Karen confirmed to perform. This isn't just about music, it's about what kind of spirit we're allowing into our sacred space. In defense of their choice, the organizers stated that they wish to foster unity within the larger gospel community and close the generational divide. Others suspected political agendas as well. Popular gospel musicians may have been brought in to draw crowds, even if it meant stirring things up, as young attendance at many SDA events has been dropping. Even before the first note was sung, tensions were high. Debates on social media erupted. The time had arrived. Flyers were circulated with headings such as, "This ain't your grandma's camp meeting anymore." Others cautioned, "Don't let emotionalism replace reverence." Late Saturday afternoon was the time. Anticipation was high, and the big worship tent was full. They had cameras rolling. The rows were packed with local leaders, youth ministries, and delegates. A few had arrived with much anticipation. Others sat quietly, cautiously. The lights then went down. The chorus entered with purpose, vitality, and color rather than silent signity. This processional was not your typical Adventist one. As the music grew louder behind them, Ricky Dillard, wearing a shimmering green robe, walked in, flailing his arms wildly. Release came after his choir burst into song even louder. With their rich harmonies, foot stomps, hand claps, and key changes, two of his greatest hits sent a tsunami of appreciation through the tent. It became tense at this point. The crowd clearly divided. People were standing, hands raised, and even tears streaming down one side. Leaders, on the other hand, were sitting uncomfortably, their notebooks closed. Even one elder allegedly fled in the middle of the song. Witnesses reported seeing an assistant worship coordinator hurry backstage in concern, perhaps to go to a senior elder. Shortly later, during a crucial solo moment, one of the choir's microphone levels was inexplicably switched off for more than a minute. It's unclear what was spoken. Was it sabotage or a technical error? Ricky's commentary followed. As he ascended the stage between songs, he declared with purpose and passion, "Let everything that hath breath, and I mean everything, praise the Lord." Tradition must occasionally give way to change. That single line ignited a firestorm. While some guests gasped, others applauded. That sounded like a straight slap in the face of the fundamental tenets of traditional Adventist worship. People began using their phones to record. Clips went viral on the internet. Videos of participants entering full Pentecostal praise mode appeared on Instagram and TikTok. Some shouting, some dancing, and others even killed in the spirit. They weren't accustomed to the SDA vibe. It was life-giving for some, spiritually out of order for others. It was powerful, but the energy shifted too fast. A Southern Union youth pastor subsequently stated in a podcast, "Many of our elders perceived it as an ambush rather than an altar call because there was no spiritual warning." Some organizers were reportedly rushing behind the scenes. According to one insider, Dillard's performance lasted longer than anticipated and caused such an emotional response that it was necessary to restore order before continuing, resulting in the cancellation or delay of at least 3 scheduled shows. The place was buzzing after Ricky Dillard's powerful set. The solemn, reflective tone that characterizes Seventh-day Adventist services has been completely replaced by a more worshipful mood. Some leaders thought that things would settle down and possibly even get back to normal. However, such expectation was dashed with the introduction of Karen Clark Sheard. There was loud ovation as soon as she took the stage, wearing a sleek blue suit and distinctive shoes. She wasted no time at all. As the organ began to swell, Karen launched into Balm in Gilead, one of her most potent anthems. This is where things start to become heated. Karen was initially supposed to sing a single song and say a brief prayer, but she deviated from the plan, according to the internal run of the event. The audience roared when she finished her first performance, turned to face them, and raised the microphone once more. "I feel a shift in here. Somebody needs deliverance, not a program." People started to stand, yelling and waving their hands. In the midst of the camp gathering, an intense altar call in the Pentecostal style started to take shape. Not everyone, though, was celebrating. Several SDA organizers were clearly rattled just off stage. Another assistant was seen frantically gesturing toward the sound booth, purportedly trying to cut the microphone, but Karen continued until a senior elder reportedly whispered to an assistant, "She's off the schedule. She needs to stop." Jesus. Her second song is a love ballad. She made it obvious with key changes, ad-libs, and full backing voices that had the audience in the pews crying. Formality wasn't why she was there. She arrived to minister. However, this is the point at which everything changed. Karen gave a testimonial in between the songs. "I was not supposed to say this, but I nearly canceled this appearance," she continued, fighting back tears. "The Holy Spirit said to me, 'Somebody here needs a breakthrough tonight,' and I wasn't going to let tradition stop a testimony." That statement sent shockwaves backstage, according to one insider, who claimed that an Adventist conference representative approached the event host and demanded that Karen be pulled early. The tension escalated after Karen left the stage, with witnesses backstage reporting that an SDA coordinator and a guest artist from another denomination had a heated argument. There were also quiet arguments, phone calls to denominational leadership, and even suggestions that the music segment be completely removed the following year. According to one, "This isn't a concert, this is a place of worship." That was hardly a divine action. Karen's team, on the other hand, remained resolute. According to a source close to her, she left the venue feeling both satisfied and upset by the criticism, but she will definitely do it again. Within a day, social media was saturated with videos from her performance. After the last chord faded and the tent emptied, it became evident that this wasn't going to end quietly. In just 3 days, a video of her singing the last note of Balm in Gilead received 1.2 million views on TikTok, with some commenters calling it an anointed moment and others accusing her of disobeying the SDA order. A verified source who attended the Monday morning SDA administrative debrief said that top leaders were deeply disturbed by what happened, and while some attendees left feeling spiritually ignited, Others left angry, calling it the most disorderly camp meeting in years. The real storm brewed not in the pews, but in the private leadership meetings that followed. The event was described as a spiritual breach by several church executives, and at least one regional director allegedly suggested enacting a complete ban on non-Adventist guest performers for future camp meetings, citing the incident as evidence of theological and cultural incompatibility. The worship committee was formally reprimanded, and a follow-up report detailing the timeline of events and protocol breakdown was ordered. However, it didn't end there. 2 days after the event, a statement that has since been removed was uploaded to a regional SDA conference website. It read, "We acknowledge that parts of the recent music segment did not fit the doctrinal tone expected of our sacred gatherings, but we are grateful to all of the guests who joined us in worship." Gospel fans quickly reacted, and prominent influencers and gospel vloggers criticized the church's response. "We are reviewing how future collaborations will be handled." The post was removed within 12 hours, but not before screenshots went viral on Facebook and X, formerly Twitter. Many saw it as a passive-aggressive jab at Ricky and Karen. Thousands of Adventists, both supporters and detractors, jumped into the debate after a YouTuber with over 300K subscribers posted a reaction video titled, "They invited Ricky and Karen, then got mad when the Spirit showed up." Some defended the performers, arguing that the Holy Spirit transcends denominational boundaries. The most damning report came from a heavily followed Adventist Facebook community, where someone claiming to be an insider said, "Next year there will be no gospel guests." Others countered that following church rules is just as important as having passion. For a period, Karen and Ricky were placed on an unofficial blacklist. Never again should you expect to see their names on anything SDA. Although this hasn't been confirmed, the fact that neither Ricky Dillard nor Karen Sheard have commented on the event since has only fueled rumors. Although videos of their performances continue to garner views online, one gospel website claimed that Karen declined an upcoming Adventist Women's Conference performance without providing an explanation. A quiet generational divide appears to be growing in the SDA community, as younger members have taken to social media to demand greater freedom in worship, with hashtags like "Let the Spirit Move" and SDA worship reform starting to trend in niche circles. Shortly after the event, Ricky was disinvited from a Christian university's worship summit, according to another source. An anonymous blog post from a self-described SDA pastor revealed another twist at that point. Perhaps the music wasn't the problem. There was more to the issue surrounding Ricky Dillard and Karen Sheard's attendance at the camp meeting than just loud music, lengthy worship breaks, or drawn-out testimony. Perhaps it was the Spirit upsetting our control, and now we're calling it chaos instead of conviction. What transpired under that enormous tent was not merely about showmanship. It was about two gospel heavyweights daring to bring authentic Spirit-led expression into a space that many feel has become more about rules than relationship. At its core, it revealed a growing divide between tradition and transformation, a generational and spiritual crossroads that the Seventh-day Adventist Church and much of the larger Christian community can no longer avoid. The church is struggling with how to change without losing its identity, and younger Adventists are calling for inclusion, relevance, and authenticity. For them, artists like Ricky and Karen represent a connection to genuine emotion, unadulterated worship, and a style that reaches where traditional methods sometimes fall short. Whether you agree with their style or not, what followed revealed something deeper. However, older, more conservative members find that same style intrusive, a challenge to decades of doctrine, discipline, and sacred rhythm. They worry that if the boundaries become too hazy, their denomination's identity would be lost in a sea of charismatic performances and gospel trends. Worship and music are changing, but is leadership keeping up? The Dillard and Sheard moment did more than just interrupt a program. It sparked a dialogue and forced pastors, worship leaders, youth departments, and regular churchgoers to confront some uncomfortable questions. This isn't just an SDA issue, though. It's occurring in Pentecostal, Baptist, and even non-denominational churches. Many are now calling for open forums, town hall discussions, and genuine conversations between youth leaders, musicians, and elders. Should musical passion ever take precedence over worship protocol? Are we preserving sacred order or boxing the Spirit into formats? More importantly, Are we listening to God's move, or are we just responding out of fear of losing control? We're not attempting to demolish our foundation. As one anonymous youth worship leader put it, a few SDA conferences have even started holding worship and culture panels, allowing a variety of speakers to discuss how the church may remain doctrinally sound while yet accepting contemporary manifestations of praise. The Spirit of God cannot be micromanaged. He moves in silence and sound, in reverence and revival, and sometimes the most uncomfortable moments are the ones that reveal the truth about where we really are. Whether you think Ricky and Karen crossed the line or carried the mantle, one thing is undeniable. We're trying to build on it with freedom, faith, and fire. Perhaps that's the lesson here. After all we've discussed, including the invitations, the opposition, the performances, the backstage tension, the leadership pushback, and the social media storm, one thing remains clear. Something changed at that camp meeting. They kindled a fire that won't be simply extinguished. Whether you think that was brave or out of order, one thing is certain. Ricky Dillard and Karen Sheard did more than just perform. They pushed against decades of sacred norms. It was more than just a musical digression or an emotional outburst. It was a moment that revealed a profound conflict between the structure of the church and the spontaneity of the Spirit. You, the audience, the worshipers, the churchgoers, the choir directors, the youth pastors, and the elders must now ask, what do you want the future of gospel worship to look like? For some, it was a sign of deliverance, while for others, it was a disturbance. Should we uphold tradition, even if it distances us from the next generation? Is it possible for Karen to be anointed and Ricky to be burned inside the confines of a conservative camp meeting? This wasn't merely about a tense occurrence and two gospel legends. It had to do with a broader spiritual reckoning that was taking place throughout the church. Head knowledge against heart experience, rules versus revelation, old versus new. It is not a matter of picking sides. Finding a balance between purpose and passion is key. We run the risk of losing a whole generation of believers who are eager for God, but fed up with being told how not to worship if we don't have these discussions now. Thus, we would want to hear from you. Did Karen and Ricky Dillard get shorn out of order? Or did they just let God work in an area that needed to be shaken? Should SDA worship change or remain constant? Please share your opinions in the comments section below. We are interested in hearing all viewpoints. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this channel. Hit the notification bell to ensure you don't miss our next in-depth analysis of gospel culture, church debate, and faith that defies convention. If you value daring discussions, hard realities, and learning the truth about what's truly going on behind the pulpit, and never forget that God is still communicating, whether it be in a shout or a whisper. Are we prepared to listen to Him over the cacophony? Keep vigilant, keep involved, and most of all, stay in tune with the Spirit even when the church isn't. Until the next time.